Hello, this is episode 88 of the Inventive Marketing Club. We're here every week to help you build a better marketing strategy. On this week, we're going to help you set up a Facebook ad campaign. But I'm away this week, so I'm leaving you in the very capable hands of Jack McCaughtry from Caughtry. And what Caughtry do is they help provide people with social media and marketing advice. So if you need any help on that front, I can highly recommend getting in touch with Jack. So what Jack's going to be doing is demonstrating how to set up a Facebook ad campaign and share his advice on how to get the most out of your boosted posts. I really look forward to watching this one when I return. Over to you, Jack.
Today on the webinar, we're going to be talking about Facebook ads, and I'm going to guide you through some simple steps and tips on how to create an ad, the best way to approach a Facebook advertising campaign, and also then some advice in terms of what that means in terms of your broader and wider digital marketing strategy. So Facebook advertising is probably one of the most cost-effective ways of advertising online, alongside other social media platforms. Facebook is obviously widely used, so there are vast amounts of people in terms of your target audience, and it is a great way of investing some of your advertising budget to place your brand and your product in front of your target audience. And that could be the target audience that are already aware of you, but most importantly, and where there's probably most interest, is to help you to reach new audiences and new potential customers. The point of a Facebook advert is to increase your reach and also the potential for inquiries and orders, but it is very important that you have a clear objective in mind and also a clear budget to make sure that you are controlling one, how much you spend, but also then to make it easy to track where there's been successes and how you might be able to refine and review how you do future Facebook adverts to make sure that you're getting the best value for money. So I'm going to start with sort of 3 clear tips, or 3 simple tips. And that is, firstly, have a clear objective in mind. What do you want the Facebook ad to do for you? I know that's sort of a statement obvious. It's sort of, well, I'm going to spend some money, I'm going to put an advert out there, and I want lots of people to see it. But it's actually a little bit more than that. So to consider whether you're looking to increase the awareness of your brand, whether you're looking to grow the audience, particularly on your page, whether you want someone to watch a video, or whether you're looking to attract an inquiry or to attract an inquiry, or whether you're looking for people to convert into orders. It's important that you have that clear in your mind before you start to put together a Facebook ad, because that then underpins how you create the advert itself, but also then the budget, the time frame, and then most importantly, at the end of that campaign, how you then judge the success of that advertising campaign. So it allows you to be accountable to the activity and to the spend. And it can be very simple. And I would encourage people that when they first start to use Facebook adverts, is always start out with something really simple. It keeps it really clear and easy in your own mind, and hopefully it makes it easy to achieve so you can see that success, but yet it's sort of challenging. And then as you become more familiar with Facebook ads, and you begin to learn a little bit more how the ad functionality works and what it means for you and your page, then they might become a little bit more in depth or a little bit more intricate, but it's always important to come back to having one clear objective for that particular campaign. The second one is to set a lifetime budget for all of your campaigns. And this is a common downfall or a common sort of issue that crops up when I'm talking to people. So like the majority of ways of paid advertising, whether that's online or offline, there is the ability to have a set cost to a Facebook advert. And the reason I highlight that is because you can also have an ongoing Facebook ad, a little bit like Google Ads, for example. You might set a monthly budget. With Facebook, I always encourage people, especially when they're starting out, is to set themselves a set budget so that you know exactly how much you're spending. And when we get into the how you construct an ad, and we'll see that in sort of for an example, I'll show you how to do that, but also why it's important is that you can then judge it quite easily and quickly in terms of what you're going to get from it. So Facebook will provide you with an estimation of how many people will see an ad, and also how many people on a day-to-day basis will respond or interact or do whatever that objective is with that advert. So it makes it easier that if you're setting a budget for £20 or £50 or £100, for example, that when you get to that end of that time frame, how much you've spent. And it's very easy to judge that against and try to work out the return on investment, and but also the value for money in terms of the results that you've got. It also, especially for all businesses of all sort of shapes and sizes, controlling spend and budgets is quite important, probably more so now than ever. So setting a set time frame and a set budget is a great way of managing your Facebook ads. And it's also the third tip, it's also important to have a very clear understanding of your audience. So it's important to have a very detailed picture in your mind of the segments that you want to target and the characteristics of those people, because that will allow you to really concentrate the targeting down of your campaigns. And that's something that I'll demonstrate shortly. But it's really important that you spend some time possibly looking at the demographics and the interests and the makeup of possibly your current clients and your current customers, and then work that through in terms of these are the same type of people that you'd like to attract more of, and how do you filter that into an advertising campaign and the targeting. But also then, whilst you're in that process, it's possibly to consider your prospective customers and your prospective clients and how they might differ from the people that you're currently working with or currently sell to, and look at the characteristics of them as well. With that in mind and having that clarity, it is important to consider who they are and what they do as individuals in their personal lives, because this is where you'll be able to put these interests and demographics and characteristics into the back of the advert to ensure that it is highly targeted as possible. And the reason why I say to have a broad look at what that segment is interested in and what they do is because that is how Facebook will target and position your ad in front of the right people. So spending some time to sit down and review and go through who your target audience is very important. So I would encourage you to do those three things before you even consider a Facebook ad. So have a clear objective, work out a set budget for a set time period, and have a very clear understanding of who your target audience is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen so that I can guide you through how to set up an advert for yourself. And this is a dormant Facebook account that we set up to do some testing at some point last year. So this is an ideal way of sharing let's say a semi-live example of the page. So you will go into your Meta Business Suite, which used to be sort of Facebook Business Manager. And in here, this is what you'll be greeted with in terms of your navigation, your menu. So there's a couple of ways of going in. So you can go in here to create ad, or you can go down the left-hand side. If we just go into this one here, and this quite quickly, going back to the first piece of advice, this is why it's very important to have a clear objective of what you want to achieve with your Facebook advertising campaigns. And that is prior to coming into this window and starting this journey to create an advertising campaign. Because it's all about what is that goal? What do you want this to achieve? What do you want to do? Or what do you want people to do with the campaign when they see it? And also this helps you to prioritize and focus your attention when you're investing money and your advertising budget into something like Facebook ads. So as we can see here, the most common one, which is recommended, which is what I would always encourage people to look at, is to boost a post. And this makes life easier in terms of setting something up, but also it fits in with you and your business and how you use Facebook on a day-to-day basis. So when it says boost a post, this essentially means that based on a piece of content and a post that you will share on your Facebook page that could be about a product, or it could be an article, or any sort of type of post that you would share on your page, you're able to essentially put some money behind that and boost it. So it will still go onto your page, it'll still be seen by your existing audience, but you can then set up an advertising campaign that can sit in the background and actually push that out to a wider but yet targeted audience. And I say boost because this is the easiest way of putting it together. What we'll then get to is how then you look at the objective in a little bit more detail in a minute in the next few screens. But you can also see here there are a few other goals that Facebook will suggest to you. Get more website visitors, that's self-explanatory. That's still something you can do via Boost Post. Promote your page. This is essentially to attract an audience, and this is probably something that I would have encouraged people to do a lot more, maybe sort of pre-COVID. But as things change with all things online, we found that Facebook are changing how they present an ad, what they prioritize in people's feeds, but also then the other features that they will include within a post or an advertising campaign. So promote your page, as I said, is to attract a new audience. So essentially people to come and like the page that then will see your content on a regular basis, become familiar with you, and hopefully over time they will then sort of move from Facebook to your site or wherever you're delivering a product or service, and you can convert them to customers. This was very useful in terms of trying to build up those pools of people alongside boosting a post historically. So you would bring people in, but also then you'd be boosting content to want to show to those new people and make sure it's being seen because you're paying for it. But also, as much as you're growing the audience, it's important then to boost a post to bring people to a site, for example. You then got to get more leads, and this is everything ultimately comes back to the functionality that we've got in Boost a Post. So if we go into this option here, and if we just take an example of a previous post that we did a campaign around, so this is an example that we did in the middle of last year, and I'll take you through some of the key steps. So when you go to Boost a Post, you can see here, this is what the advert will look like on your right-hand side, and the key functionality is on the left-hand side, and it's important to work through some of the key options. So the first thing that you're greeted with is that goal. So if you go in here to change, so this is actually picking up probably the goal that we set up in the historical campaign, but you are able to change that goal if you come back to Boost a post that you've previously had a Facebook advertising campaign focused on. So here you're able to select a couple of options. Here is automatic is self-explanatory. Facebook will pick up what you've got in your settings. They will look at how you've used Facebook historically and suggest to you what that goal might be. This is probably good for people that will be using Facebook ads on a fairly regular basis, because the more that you do, the more data and the more information that Facebook will be able to glean from your activity, and then will be a little bit more intuitive in terms of what they might suggest and what automatically might be the setting. I would encourage people to make sure that you do go in and you do go and select which one that you want it to be, so that you're giving Facebook some very clear direction. So for example, let's say we want more website visitors. If I save that, as we skip through here, we get to probably one of the most important parts, and this is where your target audience comes in. So I will guide you through shortly on how you go through targeting a particular group of people and what you can include, and how you might consider changing and tweaking things. But what you can do here, as you might be able to see, you're able to save audience sets. So these are actually audience sets that I have set up for some of the pages that I manage, and you can give these audience sets a title. So it's very easy for you to come back in to Facebook ads when you're looking to create a new campaign and boost a post for an audience that you've historically created a campaign for, and you can quite quickly just tick that box and it'll be targeted and advertised to that group of people. Alternatively, you can tick the box and go in and make a couple of tweaks, but it will still remember what you've saved thereafter. So it's just a really easy way of picking something up, creating an ad, making any changes and getting it out as quickly as possible without you having to remember what you did last time, and go back through the targeting, through all the interests, when in actual fact, it's already a group of people that you've targeted historically. So if we just go into the pencil button here, this will open up a whole new window in terms of the different factors or the different sort of points that you can tailor and tweak depending on who you want to target. So some of them are quite self-explanatory. Others, it's important to be mindful of how Facebook present these to you, but also how they might list different options. So you're able to select the gender of the people that you'd like to target. You can select the age range for people. I would always encourage to be maybe slightly wider than, let's say, a specific target age range, because this will make sure that you'll be able to scoop up as many people as possible. So as much as some of the stuff that we'll talk about is to be really highly targeted, you also have to be mindful of and adopt the mindset of trying to give yourself the best possible chance of this being seen by as many of the right people as possible. So there's a few sort of, let's say, looser phrases there as much as it is about being targeted. So I'd always, from an age perspective, always make it slightly wider so that you can catch people within that age group. This is probably one of the most important parts, so location. So in here, you're able to type in the target location or locations that you would like your advert to appear in front of people that are using Facebook within that area. So for example, you can target, I hope it's going to come up as quick as possible, a country, which is a bit sort of self-explanatory, but then where it is very useful, especially for businesses that are only serving the local population that they operate in or they are based in, or if you are looking to only work in or sell to people in particular areas because of, I don't know, historical client and customer data that you've got, or it could be a new area that you're looking to break into. This provides you the ability to only highlight those areas so that you are really squeezing as much as you can out of your budget to make sure it's seen by people in the right location. So for example, if we just put in Birmingham, and as you can see here, Facebook tends to try and serve you as much as possible. So everything from a market all the way through to roads and lanes, but it's important that you do want to try and target a city. Let's see if this comes up. And as you can see, the way that, and this is probably one of the downfalls of Facebook, is it tries to list different things and as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So even just having the city of Birmingham listed, it's actually at the bottom of this list, for example. And let's just put, let's say another one in. So here, this is a good example that you can actually target a county as well as a city or a town. And as you can see here where Facebook are actually presenting this map, this will give you an idea of where this advert will sit. And then once you've selected a particular location, you can go in a little bit more detail, and you can, based on the point in a particular map, you can then show you the sort of the region or how far out from that center point you want to target. So it may be that you're looking to scoop up people through across a region, or where there might be some crossover. So you make sure that you actually want to put anchor points in your advert. So it could be that we take, for example, let's take another third point, and we put in, zoom back out, we go into here, and let's say we want to target Gloucestershire. Quite quickly, we can see how we've got quite an even spread based on a very similar sort of radius across, let's say, the Midlands, or sort of across, let's say, the 3 counties pushing up into the West Midlands. So this would give you an idea of how you might be able to put those anchor points and key areas in into a map. So another way of doing this as well, if you really wanted to, you can actually put postcodes. So if I was to take a postcode of my office, for example, you're able to really hone in on particular areas. So if you know that your target audience resides within a particular postcode or an area of even a small town, let's say like Kidderminster or Warwick Forest, which is the sort of district that we're based in, this gives you an idea of how you can really get down to the nitty-gritty of targeting locations. So why this is important is all of these factors help you to narrow down where that targeting is. So it could be that you know a particular type of or segment of your audience lives in certain areas of a county or region. You're able to highlight exactly where you want this to be presented to, and only into those regions. I would always encourage you to review these, because things might change, and you might be looking at, let's say, your Google Analytics, and this is where it's important to take data from other sources, that where you might be getting traffic from, and as you look at that, there might be a couple of surprises, and you wonder why is that happening? We haven't particularly targeted it or focused on it at the moment, and it could be then that when you come back to advertise or run a Facebook advertising campaign for a particular product or service that is then targeting a couple of different locations, it's then worth looking at whether you need to add any other different locations in there to try and squeeze out as much as you can from that campaign and make sure you're hitting the right people. The one thing you'll notice as you scroll through this window, there's always this ever-present box at the bottom, which is called audience definition. And this is Facebook telling you, based on firstly everything they know about you and your business and your page, but then also specifically the campaign that you're piecing together, how defined that audience is and how defined this campaign is going to be. So ideally you want to be in the green element, broad, self-explanatory. All of the criteria that you've put in is a little bit sort of wide of the mark, and as much as you can say, well, my audience is relatively broad, so it could be females between 18 and 35 across the UK. Okay, they are a couple of focused points there, but as we all know, well, that must be hundreds of thousands, millions of people. That's too broad for Facebook to be able to say to you, we know exactly who you want us to put this in front of, because there's probably a few more factors that you need to include. So you'll be able to see this change as you go through. So ideally you want to be in the green element, because equally then if it's too specific, it's too narrow, and that's Facebook basically saying to you, we're not that confident of putting this in front of that small group of people. So that's where you've got to sort of possibly have that clear defined audience and clear defined target and key segments of the targeting process, which we're in at the moment, but then also be mindful of you might have to include a couple of other wider, let's say, interests. So as opposed to focusing on the center, which is where you should start, you might have to build out a little bit to make sure that Facebook's coming back to saying that you're basically giving you the green light. The other thing that's underneath here will also show you an estimated audience size, which again, that's another factor to consider as we go through this, because it will show you what you'll get based on the budget and the time frame you're willing to put into that campaign. So as we get a little bit further into the targeting, these are suggested interests that Facebook have shown to us. So if we take all of these out, and this is where my second point, or was it second, or yes, it was my third tip at the start of this, was to have a very clear understanding of who your target audience is, and what, let's say, what tags, and in some ways, not that anybody likes to be given a label or labels by other people, but ultimately they are labels. So what terms, phrases, job titles, interests can you attribute to your target audience by putting in, as I wouldn't, let's say, as many as possible, but as including really important and as much as valuable tags as possible, will give you the best chance of targeting people. So for example, let's say we are trying to, you are a business with a product, an education product, and I'm using a live example of a client, and also possibly why some of these are suggested. You have got an educational resource that could go into schools, but equally could be targeted to parents. I use that as an example because it's one I'm familiar with, but also as we go through the targeting, probably easy for people to understand and resonate. So we know we want to target parents. So the first one is we will put in the word parents. And then as you can see quite quickly here, we then get to see different ways that Facebook is segmenting individuals that are a parent, and Facebook are confident that they are a parent based on their Facebook profile, their activity, etc. So if we go for parents all, that's pretty broad. But if you know, based on what you're trying to promote and what you're trying to serve to people, that it applies to children or young people of a particular age, this is a great example of how you can actually sort of go a little bit further and a little bit deeper into that sort of that demographic. If we come out, for example, you can actually put job titles in, as we can see below, in terms of sort of teachers. But if we put in, let's say, marketing, and put in a marketing consultant. So here we can see here that this is a demographic that they will associate with someone. They'll also say, based on what you've put here, this is an area of interest. So people that talk about marketing, from Facebook's perspective, they know that you click on and watch content or read and watch content related to marketing, and that will show that, right, if we can find people that are in a particular location, a particular gender or age group, and that we know that they interact with and they have an interest in a particular topic or theme, that's who we'll put this in front of. So it's important here to have a bit of a balance in terms of someone's interests and their hobbies, but also try to give them a label as who they are. So let's say them as an individual within their life, and possibly the stage of life they might be at, because that helps Facebook to sort of really narrow down the targeting of your ad. So if, for example, it probably won't let me, if I put in a couple of suggested interests here, just so Facebook will allow me to save the audience. Put business owner in. Save this audience. So you can see here, this is where it's all been saved. And then as we scroll down, this is where we get to possibly the more finer detail in terms of setting it up. So you're able to schedule your campaign. So you can tell Facebook when you want it to start and when you want it to end. A little bit sort of like the total budget point that I made earlier. It's important that you have a set sort of time frame as well. And this is where it's probably important to take note of how Facebook use your budget, use your target audience, and also then use your content, and also take all of the information they've gathered about you and your page and put that alongside the people you want to present it to, and how they essentially put that through their algorithm. So why that's important for scheduling and the duration is that Facebook will, as soon as you hit go and start on a particular campaign, within, first of all, it'll go through an approval process, and then within the first sort of 24 hours, Facebook will literally take the bare bones and what it says within your targeted campaign and serve that to a group of people that meet those exact points of criteria. So all of those interests in that location, within that age range and that gender. And they will serve that quite quickly. And that is essentially for them to test the advert and to really put the budget to the test and to serve it to the people that you've asked it to serve to. After that period, you will then, and you'll see this when you look back on the interaction and where the reach and the impressions, when you look back on a campaign, you'll then, after that, let's say 24-hour, 48-hour period, you might see a dip off in terms of the amount of money that's spent in that middle period. Because the money might drop off or the spend might drop off, you'll also see your engagement and your impressions drop off. And that's not a bad thing. You'll see this probably in every campaign that you run. It's certainly something that I've seen in every campaign. So what's happening then is Facebook's taking the data from the initial test and looking at how people reacted with it. What did they do? So if your objective is to get visits to your website, based on the people they presented to, how many people clicked on it? And also based on that, within the number of people that clicked, is there a certain and then they take the date range, the age range, for example. So is it the youngest people in the age range or the oldest people in the age range that are clicking on things? And they basically try to learn a little bit more about the data they've got against what you're asking them to do. So then when you get to sort of, let's say, 3/4 of the way through the duration of the ad, that's when you'll see most of the activity from 3/4 of the way through to the end, because that is when Facebook are most confident of presenting this ad in front of the people that you've asked them to, but also the individuals that they know from the data that they've got in terms of how individuals use Facebook that are going to respond and react and basically give you the result that you're after. And why that's important, most importantly to you, the business, so that you get value for money and that your budget is being spent wisely and you're getting the results you're after. But also then from a personal perspective is that this is only serving adverts to people that actually would take kindly to that particular ad and would respond to it. So that is not putting it in front of people that you've asked Facebook to, but in actual fact, it's going to annoy them and get in the way. One, that's not good for Facebook because people become despondent, but equally it's not good for you because you're wasting your money. You're not getting the result you're after. And also when you get those results back, they're going to be slightly skewed because the advert hasn't been put in front of the right people. So going back to duration, I would always encourage someone to run an ad for a minimum of probably about 10 days, possibly push it to 14. That's I find 14 days a bit of a sweet spot. Again, that comes back to that control element. You know when it's starting, you know when it's stopping, you know how much money you're spending. But it will also allow you to come back when you're looking at the results and see that graph. So you can see where it's been pushed out by Facebook, where it will drop off. And then from sort of, let's say, if we take 10 days, from the 7th day all the way through to the end of the 10th, that's when you'll see probably 75%, not 80% of your budget spent, but also that's when the activity will start to come through as well. So I'd always encourage someone to set a time frame and an end date. As you can see here, you can select a time and a date for your advert to start. This might coincide with something else that you're doing in business. So it could be, let's say, a product launch, for example. You could be launching a product on the website. Obviously, you don't want to start the advert prior to it being live on the website, so it's all got to tie in. But this will allow you to do that. What you'll also see is as you increase the days and the length of a campaign, without changing the budget, you'll see on the right hand side how by asking Facebook to show it to people for longer, you'll see how the estimated daily results will change. And ultimately, the longer that you extend the advert for, the more people that they say that they will be able to serve it to. So that's great because you're basically giving Facebook more chance, more opportunity to spend your money as best as possible. But equally, I'd caveat that with making sure that it is, for me, relatively short and sweet so that you've got some control and some handle over it. We'll then also look here at budget. So you'll also see, based on the time frame and then the money that you will want to allocate to this campaign, how that will change your estimated daily results here. So if we start with £10 or a 15-day period, or then if we increase this to, let's say, £100, save that. That's when you see all of this change. And I'm not encouraging anybody to spend £100. I'd always start small. So I'd start with probably a budget of £20 to £30 for your first campaign. Look at it, test it, see what happens with the results, then possibly replicate the spend and the time frame, maybe change the post that you've boosted and maybe some of the target audience that you're looking to preserve this to. So then you've got two pieces of data to compare. And then once you get to the stage where you really know that you have found your target audience within Facebook and you've got that saved because you can see from the number of clicks or the number of conversions, I would at that point look to possibly increase the budget depending on, one, what you want to spend, but also to look at what that return on investment looks like as well. So if you can see that people are visiting the site, you are getting conversions, you can then make a calculated decision on how much you're going to spend and what you might look to increase it by in terms of what that return might look like for you. As we go in here, and this is possibly something that I might actually suggest to Ben and Claire to do a separate webinar on, is actually to look at your Facebook meta pixel. So what this is a unique code that you can add to the back of your website, and this is a piece of tracking code. So what this will do is a little bit like Google Analytics, but within Facebook, it will give you a bit of an insight in terms of the individuals that visit the site, the traffic, a little bit around the demographics, certainly the pages that they look at and view and how they interact with the site and what that means in terms of them and their Facebook profiles, because what that will allow you to do in future is to remarket and re-advertise to people that have visited your site, that then when they're on Facebook, your ads, when you set them up, will be served to these people. So because there is that sort of there's some familiarity, and people are aware of you and your products because they've already visited the site, naturally that will give you best chance of getting a better response from those types of people when you're spending money to present your content to them. But that is possibly something that's a little bit more in depth, and it's probably worth us looking at the benefits and the process of that, and also how you might want to set it up. So in terms of the ads themselves, the key bit is to, I would always go and boost a post. So take a piece of content you've already got ready to publish on your site, on your page, or you possibly already have, and to look at how you can optimize and target people in a little bit more of a focused fashion, and that way you're able to present this to new people. But also you might want to try and look at how you can target the people that are already aware of you and your page, and try and optimize and squeeze out a little bit more from the efforts that you're putting into your Facebook page and your Facebook activity. That there was a very brief sort of whistle-stop tour of Facebook ads. And if anybody has any questions, or they'd like to know a little bit more about Facebook ads, or they have any questions or challenges that they might be encountering, please feel free to drop Ben a message, or I'm sure Ben will share my contact details if anybody has any questions or would like some help. I'll be more than happy to try and point you in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Jack. I'm sure that was amazing. We're here every Friday from 10 a.m. If you want to ask us a question, or you want to come on as a guest, just like Jack, then email support@ratherinventive.com. Remember, all the episodes are available on ratherinventive.com/club. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.